Today, we're becoming medical detectives. We're on the hunt for criminals so small they live their entire lives inside of us, completely unseen.
I mean, think about it, right? When the evidence is microscopic and the crime scene is literally the human body, the investigation takes a whole different set of tools and a super sharp eye for the tiniest of clues. Okay, let's get into it.
So, we're diving headfirst into the world of medical parasitology. And listen, this isn't just about spotting weird little creatures. This is high-stakes detective work. A patient's symptoms? Those are the first clues to a hidden invasion. Finding the culprit can literally mean the difference between life and death.
Our first case starts with a pretty common but really serious set of symptoms. Let's open up the case file on what we're calling the dysentery puzzle.
So here's the situation. A middle-aged guy walks into the clinic with this classic and frankly alarming complaint. The symptoms are screaming dysentery, but the real question is, who or what is behind it?
The detectives immediately have a lineup with two prime suspects. Both are protozoa, these tiny, single-celled organisms, and both are known for causing dysentery. Our job is to figure out which one of these is our guy.
So how do we catch them in the act? Well, the investigation follows a really strict protocol. First, you got to collect the evidence. You take at least 3 samples, because these little guys don't always show up in every single one. Then, you do a quick visual check for the obvious signs, the blood and mucus. But the real breakthrough, the moment of truth, happens in step 3, under the microscope.
And this right here, this is the investigator's most powerful weapon. Under that lens, a whole hidden world just springs to life. It's here that our microscopic suspects have absolutely nowhere left to hide. The truth is about to come into sharp focus.
And what they find is just fascinating. They don't just see the parasite, they see its different life stages. Finding Trophozoites, which is the active moving form, that's like catching the culprit red-handed. It confirms an active invasion. Finding Cysts, the parasite's little dormant shell, that's like finding a secret hideout, showing the person might be a carrier. And those Charcot-Leyden crystals, that's forensic evidence left behind by our own immune cells in the heat of battle.
And boom. Based on all that evidence, the lab makes a positive ID. The culprit is Amoebic histolytica. Case 1 solved. The puzzle's complete, and now the patient can get exactly the right treatment.
But hey, our work is not done. Let's move on to the next case. This one has a totally different and really distinctive pattern. We're calling it the fever cycle. Okay, so our second patient has this fever that comes and goes with this chilling regularity. It's not a constant thing, it's a cycle, a brutal wave of fever, chills, and shaking that hits you, disappears, and then comes back like clockwork. Now, for any medical detective, that cyclical pattern is a giant flashing neon sign pointing to one of the most infamous parasites on the planet, malaria.
And this is why those fevers are cyclical. It's kind of brilliant, in a sinister way. The malaria parasite, Plasmodium, lives this crazy double life. Part of its cycle is inside a mosquito, and the other part is inside us. And those recurring fevers our patient feels, that's the exact moment when thousands of new parasites all burst out of his red blood cells at the same time, triggering this massive, coordinated immune response.
Okay, so to nail the diagnosis, we have to find this parasite in the patient's blood. And the gold standard test is a 2-part investigation. First up is the thick smear. Think of this like a wide-angle search. It's designed to answer one simple question: is the parasite here, yes or no? Once you get a yes, then you move to the thin smear. This is the zoom lens, the close-up that lets you identify the exact species of Plasmodium, which is absolutely crucial for choosing the right medicine. But just finding the parasite isn't enough. The detectives also have to get a head count. This table shows how they grade the severity of the infection. A +1 grade is a pretty low count, but a +4? That means there's a massive invasion going on. This is how they measure the scale of the battle that's raging inside the patient's bloodstream.
All right, let's turn the page to our final case. This culprit is different, way more subtle. A silent operator working in the shadows. We're calling this one the hidden thief. Our patient is a young kid. He doesn't have these dramatic, cyclical fevers or anything acute like that. His symptoms are chronic, almost vague. He's weak, has indigestion, and a lab report shows his hemoglobin is low. Something is just slowly, quietly draining him of his strength.
So the question becomes, what kind of invader works like this? Not with a sudden attack, but with a slow, persistent theft that just wears the body down over time. That low hemoglobin, though, that's our key clue. Something is causing blood loss.
And here we see the thief's MO, their method of operation. This flowchart shows exactly how the hookworm pulls off the heist. It latches onto the intestinal wall, uses its teeth to make a cut, and then literally just starts sucking blood. And it gets worse. It releases anticoagulants to keep the wound bleeding even after it moves on. It is a continuous, relentless drain on the body.
And all that nonstop blood loss leads directly to this, anemia. The body just can't make new red blood cells fast enough to keep up with what's being stolen. This explains everything about the boy's symptoms, the weakness, the fatigue. The mystery is solved. The hidden thief is a hookworm, and its crime is anemia.
So, we've closed 3 cases today, and each one was caused by a very different kind of microscopic invader. But, identifying them is really only half the battle. So what's the path forward? How do we start building up our defenses?
Here they are again, our lineup of culprits. You've got a protozoan that contaminates water, another protozoan that gets delivered by a mosquito, and a helminth, a parasitic worm that literally drains you of your blood. 3 completely different criminals with 3 completely different methods of attack.
So what's our defense strategy? Well, it's got to be tailored to the criminal, right? For something like Amoeba, it all comes down to sanitation and clean water. For hookworm, it's sanitation and just wearing shoes so the larvae can't get through your skin. For malaria, it's bed nets and bug spray to avoid the mosquito. For all of them, prevention and catching them early are our absolute best weapons, especially since, and this is a big one, effective vaccines just don't exist for a lot of these guys yet.
Solving these cases in a lab is an incredible triumph of medical science, but it's so important to remember that these aren't just cool puzzles. They are real battles being fought inside millions of people as we speak. It really leaves you wondering, doesn't it? What other unseen culprits are still out there, just waiting for their secrets to be brought into the light?